Turn, but c'est la vie. Do me a favor, everybody. Hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us places around the internet at BIDWKB. So, if you guys recall, last year, 2023, we covered a story here on Burn It Down with Kim Brown, a story out of Indianola, Mississippi, where a young mother asked her 11-year-old son to call the police because her ex boyfriend had showed up to the house and became rowdy. The mother asked the 11-year-old, whose name is Adarian Murray, to call the police because the ex boyfriend had arrived at the home late at night and refused to leave. When the Indianola police showed up, they demanded everybody to come out with their hands up. When the 11-year-old boy, 11-year-old child emerged from around the corner with his hands up, Indianola police officer Greg Capers shot him in the chest. Now, fortunately, 11-year-old Adarian survived his injuries, although you can imagine they were serious and he was in critical condition, but he continues to recover, I suppose, at least from his physical trauma, his physical wounds. But now the story has taken a worser turn, as my grandmother would say, worser. First of all, let me be clear. The Sunflower County State's Attorney's Office refused to bring any criminal charges against Sergeant Capers. Let's start there. Okay. Now that was announced months ago that there would be no charges filed. In response, Adarian's mother, whose name is Nakala Murry, she and her attorney have filed civil suit against the Indianola, Mississippi Police Department, and that civil suit is pending. But the news, as reported initially by NPR, shows us the punitive nature of the state. Because, Will, if you could pop up that NPR piece for me, please. Because, y'all, this news is absolutely stunning. Police shot Nakala Murray's 11-year-old son, shot her young son. Now she could lose custody of her kids. It brought me back to the mind when I read this headline of Stop Child Protective Services. Stop CPS movement. Shout out to Amanda Wallace and the squad still doing that work. Let me get to this NPR story, everybody. So a Mississippi mom could lose custody of her 3 children nearly a year after a police officer shot her 11-year-old son in her home. In a new court filing obtained by NPR, Sunflower County, Mississippi officials referenced the May 2023 police shooting of 11-year-old Adarian Murray and accused his mother, Nakala Murry, of negligence of her 3 children, including Adarian, during the domestic incident. Adarian had called 911 for help. He was seriously injured after Sergeant Greg Capers of Indianola's, Mississippi's police department shot him in the chest. But now the court filing argues that an unnamed witness, and this is kind of a mind fuck here because this unnamed witness has made some statements. The court filings argue that an unnamed witness saw Nakala Murray's ex-boyfriend, John Nolden, jump on her during the May 2023 incident in front of the 3 children. The filing also indicated that the unnamed witness said that Adarian Murray's shooting was a quote result of the mother and the ex-boyfriend's domestic violence that has been happening for years, end quote. Nakala Murry spoke exclusively to NPR on Friday following the court filed petition. And Nakala said that it was something that caught her completely off guard. She says, quote, "As I read what the petition said, I was taken aback," Nakala Murry said. "I feel disgusted." So the article goes on to say that Nakala Murray's lawyer, a man by the name of Carlos Moore, is going to continue to represent her in the civil case and continue to represent the Murray family in the civil filings that they have filed against the Indianola, Mississippi Police Department, but is also going to represent her in this, what he calls court retaliation for her ongoing lawsuit against the city of Indianola. That's right. She's suing the city and the police department over her son's shooting. And when you think about it, everybody, what is so heartbreaking about all of this is that there's many layers to this, okay? And sure, as a baseline foundation, why do our people or people in general, why do we have these some bad interpersonal relationships, and why is violence sometimes a part of the way that especially these hetero relationships end up shaking out, you know what I'm saying? And it's the foundation of it, I suppose, is capitalism, white supremacy, patriarchy, heteronormativeness, etc. All of that is the foundation of it. But okay, even for our folks that are not even thinking on that level, this is the level that I want us to think at. The violence that this man brought to the home of this woman, okay? I don't know who started the domestic incident. All I know is that he was at her house and she called, pardon me, she told the 11-year-old, because we covered this at the time. Nakala told her 11-year-old son, Adarian, to make 2 phone calls. Call grandmama, her mama, Nakala's mama, and call the police. The boy did as he was told, okay? Had it not been for the ex-boyfriend, Mr. Nolden, John Nolden, right, who is not Adarian's father, but the father of one of Nakala's other children, had he not been there bringing whatever shit he was bringing to that household, the state would have never been called. Adarian would have never been shot. And for some unimaginable fuck boy or fuck girl, this unnamed witness, to file a petition with the court trying to get these children yanked from the care and the custody of their mom because of another person's actions, because she had to try to fend off and or endure violence from another person. Now she's the one who's irresponsible. She's the negligent one. And to the extent that Nakala, which by the way, even at the time when we covered this back in 2023, yeah, this is almost a year now. May 2023 is when Adarian was shot by police. It was alleged even then that this ex-boyfriend had been abusive to Nakala for a very long time. And I'm trying to tell you, what options do women who find themselves in domestic violence situations, like what are their options here? Because again, we've already shown this on this program as well. What's she supposed to go do? Get a protective order? Oh, right. You know, when he come trying to kick in the door, she just go hold the protective order up. No, see this piece of paper? See this? It's a farce. There was a recent story here that again, some of these stories that happen, guys, I see them and I want to talk about them, but they break my fucking heart, right? This woman, black woman, Northern Virginia, I don't know if she was at the doctor's office or she worked at like a medical office. She was in her vehicle. Her ex, who she has a protective order against, she saw him stalking her in the parking lot. She calls police, tells him she has a protective order, but in the interim, he walks right up to her car, shoots her through her windshield, and she died. And she had a protective order. I tell you, you guys know this. I know it in the span of 12 months. I personally knew two men who murdered their partners. One of them had a protective order in place, and he allegedly shot her in the driveway. Like, I don't know what Nakala Murry was supposed to do to keep this allegedly abusive man off of her and away from her children. But the state seems to think that she should have been more on top of the situation. The state seems to think that somehow she was supposed to prevent this man from jumping on her. How was she supposed to do that exactly? Because we know she certainly could not have used force, even in a gun-friendly red state like Mississippi. Well, why couldn't she use force, Kim? Because Black women are not entitled to self-defense. We are not allowed to use deadly force in defense of our lives. We will be charged with crimes. Okay? Don't believe me. Go look. Go look. By and large. So it is outright disgusting. It is disgusting for Sunflower County. Hold on. I think it was maybe some Black people involved here. Wait a minute, because I saw some names and I said, that sounds like Black folks. Gwendolyn Jimison. Jimison. I've never seen Jimison spelled that way. And see, now I don't know what Gwendolyn is, but Gwendolyn sounds like she on some bullshit. Regardless, I'm sorry, I'm back at the NPR article. My bad. Gwendolyn Jimison, who is the Sunflower County prosecuting attorney, filed the petition. Did not immediately respond to NPR for comment. What? Of course they didn't. Mississippi, goddamn. So let me ask you guys a question. Do you think that the unnamed witness or Child Protective Services or the Sunflower County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, you think they was giving a fuck whether or not Nakala Murry was getting jumped on by her ex, but for the agent of the state unjustifiably, critically wounding and attempting to murder the 11-year-old child, and for the mother to have the audacity to say that there should be some accountability here for her shot 11-year-old by the cops? This is intentional targeting. This is the shit I have to laugh at Trump and Trump supporters when they talk about he's being persecuted by the state. No, motherfucker. Nakala Murry is being persecuted by the state, except she's actually at risk of losing valuable things, namely her children. Her 3 children, which it sounds as though she has sole custody of, or she has primary physical custody of her children. So what happens to the kids if Nakala Murry is found guilty of negligence? What do you think's going to happen to the kids? You think they're going to let her keep her children? No. The whole point here is to punish her, is to put her in her place, is to remind her order in the social hierarchy. She has no right nor standing in this society, according to the society, to be trying to hold cops accountable, to be trying to hold the city accountable, to be trying to hold the system accountable. She lacks the standing. So the state, viewing her, knowing that she's a vulnerable person, she's a single Black woman out here raising 3 kids by herself. So now, as soon as they decide to focus the power and the ability to harm of the state, to harm her as an individual, they have decided to do that. And they could give no fucks about the permanent injuries sustained to Adarian, the 11-year-old who was shot in the chest by the cop who showed up to the house allegedly to help the family after the ex-boyfriend showed up to inflict harm upon the mother. All I see is a Black woman at the bottom of this whole fucked up foundation, right? And it's not her fault. Black women are disempowered by society with intention, right? Black people, no doubt. I don't negate all of the challenges and all the crazy shit that Black men endure. but this is a Black woman center channel. Okay, there are as many Black men led channels that will let you know all of the horrors that our brothers face. But when it comes to these kinds of horrors that Black women face by the state and sometimes by our partners, this is the double whammy. This is the double and triple mind fucking and societal fucking that Black women experience on a regular basis. But problem is, many times these stories are not elevated. They are not lauded up. I'm not certain in the ways in which we can support Nakala because I mean, what do you do? Like, you can't even like, can you go fund me support somebody who is being persecuted by the state? I'm not sure what kind of support she's asking for or whether she's asked for any. But what I want us to do is be aware and be ready to have the conversations. Like, please tell people that the mother of a survivor of police brutality is being targeted by the state because she lacked the power to end a domestic violence situation. What impossible circumstances to put people in, especially Black women. And who do we go to, everybody? Like, who do we go to? She tried to call her mama and she called the police. And she got violence at the end of one of those phone calls. I don't know. And it doesn't sound as though we are, and see, this is the benefit I see to organization, whether or not it's organization in an entity or getting the community organized. But I remember having this conversation with you guys when we talked about the story when it happened almost a year ago. Like, somebody was supposed to come and collect her fucking ex-boyfriend. You understand? Like, she should have been able to call others besides her mama. Who, what's mama gonna do, basically? Like, in reality, like, what's mama gonna show up and do with the rowdy ex-boyfriend? Or the police, right? Now, if the police hadn't enacted violence on the child, they probably would have enacted violence on the mother or the ex, right? All very plausible. So where is the intermediary steps in between, right? Like, where is the community, that the community action squad, right? The squad of brothers. You know what I'm saying? Gotta be brothers. Because men only respect men, they only respect strength, physical strength of that kind, right? Like, where's the community or council of brothers, the domestic violence intervention squad? Like, that's the kind of shit we need to be organizing, y'all. Like, that's the kind of, I'm not to say to not to the dismissal or to the ignoring of other needs like unhousedness and hunger and access to healthcare and all that. But in the cascading ways in which domestic violence usually or can sometimes end up in state sanctioned murder of our folks is something that needs to be addressed. I hate that women have to call the police, or people who are on the receiving end of domestic violence feel as though the police is their protection. And we've seen this countless time and time again. They aren't. You know what I mean? In this situation, unusual in its circumstance, that the child, the 11-year-old, the obviously 11-year-old, Darian wasn't out there with a little beard and fucking, muscles and shit. You know how the whites, especially, even though I don't think Greg Capers, the cop that shot Darian, I don't think he was white, but society tends to age Black children and make them look older, or they claim that they appear older. No, when Darian was shot, he looked like he was 11. Okay, like, he didn't look like he was 14. He looked fucking 11. So there was no question about that. So this situation was different and exceptional in the fact that a obvious child got shot. But even the situation of the sister that was murdered by Los Angeles sheriff's deputies, when she called police, when her ex-boyfriend showed up being fucking rowdy, making threats towards her 9-year-old, and she called the police for help, and they showed up and shot her. And this goes again to another point that I try to make on this program. Please don't call the police to your house. unless you want them to show up and shoot somebody, then you call the police, right? Like, unless you there's somebody in your home or at the location where you are that you have already predetermined and you don't give a fuck about this person's life. Oh yeah, by all means call the police. But if you want someone to live, don't call the police. Mental health crisis, domestic incident, take your pick. And I know that sounds crazy for me to say to anybody. Don't call the cops during a domestic incident. Here's why you don't. How are they going to be able to tell who's the dangerous person? This motherfucker in Indianola, Mississippi thought the 11-year-old was the dangerous person. You understand? When it comes to being Black in America, you should have no expectation of the law enforcement showing up to help you. Because the chances are, the odds are not in your favor that you will not be mistaken for the perpetrator. Okay? You calling the cops for help, they show up, shoot you because you fit the fucking description. Just being Black and appearing as Black is fitting the fucking description. That's being suspicious. That's being dangerous. I hate that there was an update to this story that went in this direction. Nakala Murry is being victimized by the state again. They shot her son. They almost killed him in front of her. And now they want to take him from her. Not just him and his siblings. They want to remove him from her because she had the bad judgment, unfortunately, of calling 911 when her ex showed up to jump on her. The messaging got through to her that the police are there to help, and they're not. So please, 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 if you are Black in America, especially, please do not think that 911 is your customer service, that they're going to show up and serve you. Okay? Be very careful and judicious. And again, I know even when we're talking about domestic violence incidents, sometimes you could be in an impossible situation where you don't really know what to do. And because we have been so well conditioned and programmed to call 911, if you're in trouble, call 911. Police are there to get the bad guys. Well, that sounds good until they show up and think you the bad guy. Then what? Now you the hashtag, right? And you called for help. So whites, white folks, please don't call the police on Black people. Everybody, please don't call the police on anybody having a mental health crisis, not if you can help it. Okay. And in general, be very sparing in the ways in which you use 911. Call and ask for the fire department first. Call and ask for an ambulance first. Don't always say, I need police to come into my house. Think about these things, guys. We've done so many stories of people unarmed, people experiencing mental health crisis, people who could have easily been subdued by other means, but no, the police decided to light this person up with several shots and now they're dead. And their family is grieving and crying, all because people in the person's life didn't know what to do. So the knee-jerk reaction was to call 911 and now they're grieving. So that's not what we want.